I had to do something musical, Greg, so. Just some things to just say here. First of all, I want to go back and just commend the staff once again for doing a report of the highest quality. If there's differences, it's in terms of maybe some of the proposals you would like to see, but I don't think we can demean the report itself. It was actually done very well. It's well researched. It's, I think, very good. So I just want you, and you've kind of taken your licks tonight on certain things, but I do want you to walk away tonight knowing that you have my ultimate respect for putting a report together of such high quality, and I think you should be proud of it. I also want to just talk about the concept that was briefly mentioned tonight, universal design for learning. Someone said, in the debates it said, well, you know, what's your educational philosophy and how's that going to shape your decisions? I said it right then. I said it's universal design for learning, and that we have to be prepared to serve all kids in all ways. And that's still what I think. So that doesn't mean we do something at the expense of one group over another or pit groups against one another. I think it's key that we have to have in mind a diverse classroom. We have to have in mind diverse programs. And we have to have in mind a teaching strategy that can address the needs of all students in terms of where they are and where they need to go. And when people say, well, it can't be done, I always think of the quote, one quote, it said, fight for limitations and sure enough, they're yours. And I'm not going to limit myself in the need to address kids. I think we can't be doing that. And differentiation is a good strategy. It's not the only one. I think if we're going to really take serious this charge of universal design for learning, that's one of those tools we're going to need. And it's not unique to one program or another. It's needed in all of them. And you can see that it's being used in all of them. So let's not make that the enemy of any program or instructing any of our students. In terms of the leadership team, I just want to say I think it's very wise to leave testing decisions and identification issues to one person is a mistake. In accounting, you have this concept of controls in the sense that when something is put down on paper and recorded as a transaction, there's always someone else who checks it out. And that's really what you're doing here in a testing situation. You are creating controls, checks and balances, so it's not down to one person. Having 4 people involved is going to make sure you're going to have the most consistent and clear identification of students. I think that was one of the best parts of it, as well as the fact that you've identified a battery of assessments that can be used based upon the student need and identification, or pre-identification. I think in terms of private testing, we have to talk carefully about that for the simple reason what I didn't like tonight was many people assume that students who are in the current program via private testing are somehow not qualified. I don't think we really meant to insult those students that way. I think what the end of private testing means is that we are going to improve our district testing to the point that it will work well for all students. And so let's not assume just because we had a bunch of students identified through private testing that somehow they're not qualified to be in that program, or that the end of private testing will necessarily decrease the number of student identification. What I really was concerned about is the proposal is going from up to 98 for the simple reason, as one of our commentators said, there's this issue of equity. If the previous year it was 96 and now you're going to raise it to 98 without the hope, then I have to be concerned about that. You know, what's the alternative? And maybe you can come back and explain to me how some of those concerns about equity are being addressed. Lastly, I just want to say, I shouldn't say lastly, I still have 3 more things on my paper here, but it is late, I'm tired, and if I fall asleep in the middle of my comments, can you wake me up? Just remember, we're here to develop all students. And, you know, this is key. I mean, we want every kid who walks through that door, we want to be able to say, I want to help you learn. And I want you to find your passion, and we're going to help that. And so maybe it doesn't occur in a third grade test, that identification of it. Maybe it doesn't occur in elementary or middle school. Maybe it takes all the way to the point where they take a class in high school, or they join a club like robotics. But the thing is, we're not going to give up on them. And I'm not going to give up on any student just because that was the year they didn't do well on some test of identification. I'm into making sure that we're going to work with them all the way through, and we're going to find something that makes them want to learn. And so, in the end, I just want to say, this is the first time we've released this proposal. I think we have to actually begin a new conversation about this proposal. I'm with you in terms of we have to have situations that are, shall we say, less structured and more conversational. I'm into, whenever at the state level we begin a curriculum framework, we make sure we have focus groups and we have conversations with educators, and we let it get there out on the table. We don't sit there and we make it a conversation. And I think this is what we have to begin now. We have to begin a conversation with teachers, and then in a focus group setting so they can feel free to converse about the program, ideas going back and forth. I think we have to have focus groups or conversations at site council and PTA meetings. I think we even have to talk to our students. Like I said, one of the things that we forget in all this is that the students are our customers. There are probably students at Davis High right now who have gone through this program, and we need to know what was their reaction to it. How did they feel about it? And those who didn't go, how do they feel about this? So I'm really hoping that Eli and Winston can actually help us on that, because I think, you know, we got to listen to them. And if we don't listen to them in this process, then we've missed a big part of our mission in terms of listening to them and figuring out what they need.
Great. So you mentioned Eli, and he's still here.